Today I have the new TRX4M along with their stock replacement transmission, part number 9791. And what we're going to do is install the soon-to-be released Holmes Hobbies 180 size motor. It's a 87 turn. Yes, that's what we're installing today. Yes. So this is a yet to be released motor. It's actually going to be black when it comes out, but it will have your leads pre-soldered onto the motor, ready to go, ready to plug in. It doesn't have the exact same plug as the Traxxas motor does because they made their own funky plug that you can't find anywhere, and Traxxas definitely won't sell it to us. So we got a 2-pin plug here. The actual, like I said, the motor's gonna be black, and then we're gonna have 2 black wires coming off of this. So it's a reversible motor. It doesn't matter what direction it's installed in. It doesn't matter which direction you put the plugs in, like this way or that way. If it runs backwards, then you just switch the 2 plugs. So no big deal. If we were using their stock one, it only goes in one way. We would have to be more careful with things. I believe it's a reverse rotation. Yeah, reverse rotation for what it's worth. There's no standard in crawlers, so calling a crawler motor reverse rotation motor is kind of an oxymoron, but whatever, we're gonna do it. I got the extra transmission so that I could install our motor into the transmission and then drop the transmission in, because it's kind of a pain in the butt to swap the motors out, because you have to take the transmission out and you have to take the transmission completely apart at the same time. So if I'm swapping motors back and forth and testing, I really don't want to be taking the transmission apart. I'd rather just have a relatively inexpensive transmission and then just whoop, whoop, do that. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to install this into the transmission, part number 9791. And in the next video, we're going to be able to test. I'll do like a slant board test of our drag brake, maybe some low speed tests. I really wish that I had a secondary vehicle so that we could do this side by side at the exact same time. But Traxxas had some issues with getting all of their rigs into the United States in time. So we do not have that. As you can see, aftermarket motor, Holmes motor, Traxxas motor. It is the same size. The leads are coming out in the same direction. You will install it where you can see the labels for both of them, and it's just a drop in. So easy peasy on that. Interestingly enough, I don't believe we have any paper clips here, but the magnet strength on these are vastly different. So that's gonna be one thing that we can test too. But instead of using the Gauss meter, we're just gonna like put some paper clips on it and see how many it can hold. That'll be a fun test. So there we go. Taking apart the transmission. This is a 1.5 millimeter driver. I should grab, let me grab a little tray. A tray that's not taking up good old 168 gram AVR G-Star. I really like 168 gram over the 175. 175 is more popular in general. It's great for putting in the wind, but 168 for me, I tend to putt more at the edge of the basket, and I can get a couple of extra inches higher with a 168 because they fly better. So I tend to go just a little lighter on my normal putter. On my driving putters, 175. So for parts trays, my ideal parts tray is 168 grams. Unless it's 175, of course. I usually will have one of each in my bag. There we go. 4 screws, all the same size. We shall take this side cover off. Transmission just splits in half. And we're going to see those real nice brass bushings inside. So if you're going to replace ball bearings, and you don't just get like a full kit, if you only replace some ball bearings, the ball bearings that go the fastest are the ones you want to replace first. And those are going to be the ones inside the transmission. Of course, the motors are too small to have ball bearings. Even the aftermarket ones, even the ones that we're getting made, we're not able to do ball bearings on there because they're just too dang small. There is really no ball bearing in that size. And if there were, it would have such tiny balls that it would not actually help. It would just blow up on us. There we go. That's the last thing you want in a ball bearing is tiny balls. Oh, this one has ball bearings inside. Interesting. Got some high winds out there, it sounds like. All right, so I took the case cover off. These are rubber shielded ball bearings too. Interesting. I wonder if they did that mid-change, because I'm almost positive the stock unit that I took apart. Oh, this is an aftermarket transmission, so it doesn't say anything about ball bearings on there. I'm almost positive that the first transmission that I took apart was brass bushings, so maybe this is just part of the aftermarket, is that it comes with sealed ball bearings in it. All right, so we're going to carefully take these apart, noting the direction of everything. There we go, because they only will go back in one direction. One direction? Two direction? What's that band name? It's pretty tight. Nice tight press fit of the ball bearings on both the shafts and inside the housing, which is good. We definitely want it to be a tight fit. All right, so it looks like another 1.5 millimeter. And we will be reusing the motor mount screws, but our aftermarket Holmes motor does come with a pinion pre-installed just for this rig. There we go. It looks like they put some blue Loctite on this. Fantastic. Metal on metal. There we go. So we'll set that down. Let's just take a look at these motors next to each other. As you can see, it is the exact same size motor. It's a 180. 180 is a standard that we can actually say, hey, 180 motor, and people will know what we're talking about. So it's the same size pinion. It's the same pitch pinion. It has the same reach. It has the same shaft length and everything. We got lucky on our first round guesses of everything. Super awesome. And yeah, so we just put it in. Couple things I'd like to kind of test by hand. How hard is it to turn this motor over? It's pretty easy. There's not much in the way of feeling those detents, the spots where the shaft likes to naturally sit. It does have them, but it's very weak, and we can kind of like push it in between those detents and it'll stay. It doesn't, yeah, it's kind of, I don't want to say mushy feeling, but this one kind of feels mushy. And then on ours, much stronger magnets. You can feel the detents of each one, thunk, 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 thunk. Now, this could make the startup RPM be a little bit higher. It depends on a lot of factors, but if I'm gonna have a weak motor versus a higher quality motor, I'm gonna choose the higher quality motor. And sometimes that means, let's see, which way is this? There we go. Sometimes that means that we do have to give up a little bit of startup. But it probably won't be noticed by the average person. If I didn't say anything about it, then you probably wouldn't notice. I probably won't even notice, but we'll see. I'm gonna have two rigs side by side. It's almost impossible to play with it on the table or out on the rocks and then switch something out and then go back and then. There we go. It looked like the blue Loctite was still plenty thick, so we're just gonna maybe a quarter Agadaga. Really not much on these tiny screws, but I like to kind of go back and forth because it'll seat. It shall seat itself. All right, we just need to remember order of operations. So we opted for a brass pinion gear. The stock one is like feels like a high glass content nylon. The other gears are also nylon, the same high glass content nylon. Is it high glass? Let me see. It shouldn't have any wear issues. If we had used steel, then it possibly could. Yeah, that's high glass. Good. That's good for gears. They need to be rigid. We don't want them mushing out of the way. There we go. Oh, hey, look. That's kind of neat. So this shaft is separate from our lower gear, and then the lower gear has a double D cut. which is like a D shaft, but you have two cuts on it. So it's like two Ds that are backed up together. Easier to, it's probably way too tiny for you to see on the camera. Way too tiny. But at any rate, that's interesting that they're two-piece. There we go. Yeah, this is much easier not having to take it out of the rig first. I don't think y'all can hear that on camera, but we must be having some high winds. There's a piece of flashing on my roof that came unattached, and I think it might be flopping around. Either that or we got somebody behind us trying to sneak a peek at this new motor before everybody else. There we go, 1.5 millimeter driver. I would not suggest using a power tool for this. These threads are so tiny. There we go. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to try to spin the transmission just to make sure. It's going to be kind of difficult because there's not much to grab onto. There we go. Make sure that there's no splits in the case, no air gaps. Everything looks like it is well secured. There we go, looking good. All right, that's it. That is the install of the motor into the transmission. Now, to look at the actual replacement of their, I'm not gonna do it on this video because, yeah, I don't feel like it, but to do this swap of the transmission itself, there's two screws on your battery tray right here. You take those two screws off. There are two screws. No, okay. Only two screws on the battery tray, and it kind of like clips into your rails. So, yeah, whatever. Okay, I'll do it on camera. Fine. You talked me into it. All right, so you take these two screws off. The only real pain, in my opinion, is that you have to reroute the wires underneath and through the battery tray, and then they've got like a zip tie right here, and then there's another zip tie down here. It's kind of a pain in the butt. If you're going to be swapping motors back and forth like me, then you may want to keep those motor wires on the outside of the bundle, just so you don't have to consistently redo that. It's going to be a pain in the butt. All right. So if I remember correctly, we just like pull, maybe, unless there's another one hiding here. I think it like keys into the transmission housing too. Yeah, there we go. So I'll do that again, maybe where you can see on the camera. I pulled this off so you can get a better view, but you actually have to like pull it away from the transmission there, and then maybe you can see how there's a round spot there, and that keys into these two round spots on the actual transmission. And the sticker, it looks like serial number maybe, the sticker kind of holds everything together. So these two screws, bam, pull that out. Now you can see what I'm talking about on the wire bundle, how it actually goes through this battery tray. It's a clean route. Of course, Traxxas isn't making things to like immediately replace. They're not going to be making it that easy on us, but yeah, here we go. You got to like turn it sideways to get those front keys out of the rail. Maybe. Come on now. There we go. There we go. And these little parts, the little nubbins right there, they sit inside the rail itself. And that's the only thing that holds the battery tray on. Not much. Then we have our two screws on either side that hold in our drive shafts. And then we have the 4 bolts that mount the transmission itself. So I'm wondering, I'll have to take the drive shafts off. But before I do that, I want to test with the stock setup. So now y'all can at least see how this comes apart, what you would do. You take off the battery tray, you take out these 4 screws along with your screws for the transmission or drive shafts, then swap it in, swap it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws, not so bad. All right, I will put this back together off camera And then for the next video, we're going to be doing some testing of stock motor versus my motor. So stay tuned for that. If you do have any questions or if you have any comments about your TRX4M, please put them down below. I would love to hear what you think of yours. I'm sure a bunch of y'all have them, so let me know if you got one and what you're doing with it. You doing inside crawling? You doing outside crawling? It's weather for inside crawling. These are about the right size, so there we go. As always, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.